that is something they usually say in Africa. It takes a village to raise a child. So now, with the young generation growing up today, where the society seems like you can't talk to even a neighbor child because it's not your child. Even when you see maybe a little one going astray or not going to school or dropping out of school, you can't intervene. I mean, it becomes so complex. When you look back, how we came, like you did mention, we cannot go back and fix it, but we can fix something now going forward.
Absolutely.
So, what very message do you have for the younger generation watching you right now?
That we have to take care of everybody. We have to take care of, I grew up with the same thing, that Huntington was zoned off, and so black people only lived in this particular part of town.
Mm-hmm.
And so moving out of that circle, we felt uncomfortable. But anybody in that circle, my grandmother lived 4 blocks from us, and I was allowed when I was 12, 14 to walk to my grandmother's house. But I couldn't go anyplace else outside that circle. And if I did anything in that circle, somebody was calling my grandmother, calling my mother before I got home. But those people felt the right to say, oh, what are you doing over here? You should be back home. And so the village was taking care of all of us. I don't know where the village broke down. I do have a feeling that in the late 1960s, we had a mining company. Their retaining pond broke and flooded that whole neighborhood. And we had an influx of people come to the city. And at that point, before that, I could walk down the street and they'd say, oh, that's Smitty's daughter. That's Fanny's daughter. That's Miss Allen's granddaughter. Everybody knew who everybody was. But at that point, people came to the community and we had no idea who they were. And so I think we saw things shutting down. We saw people now having the ability to move about. After the civil rights movement and we started to integrate, people had the opportunity and they had the means because people were now able to have jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And jobs and housing, housing, and education are the key for movement. And once we saw that movement, people could move about. I remember sitting on the front porch with my mom, and as my friends got older and they were able to drive, we'd be sitting on, and I'd go, oh wow, look at so-and-so, is that driving a new car? My mother said, you better not be in that car. But again, she was proud that that person had a car. And then people had the opportunity to leave home, to get an apartment, to be able to afford an apartment, to get a job. And those were the things that mattered to the community, but that also split the community apart. We no longer knew who everybody was. I didn't feel responsible for those people that we didn't know. The community did not embrace them easily. I remember my mother's friend from Pennsylvania saying, we gave her and her husband a 50th wedding anniversary. And she said, and it was a surprise. So we bring her into this room, all the people from church and people in the community that we felt she knew. And she got up and she said, I finally feel like I'm part of this community. She had been here for 25, 30 years and was very not active in the groups because she had to work. She and her husband worked, but she felt that she was part. And then when a good friend of my brother died a couple of years ago, his cousin got up and gave a eulogy saying that this particular man never felt that he was part of the community, but he lived here all of his life.
Yes, and I think that's one of the things that restoring that community become an important tool. I remember Dr. Omar. He's a psychologist. He's a educational psychologist. He's on many TV shows, even though he has some controversial issue that sometimes he goes far to the right. But yeah, I mean, when I listen to him sometimes, some of his talk are very important. He said that those that have made it to the top, they need to come back to those communities and reinvest. Opening of banks, opening school, that will train black folk, teaching them the real history. Some of the things that you are recounting here, that many young black folk do not know about.
True.
Yeah, because something is economic empowerment. That means somebody is financially independent.
Mm-hmm.
You are trained for the kind of job that we need today, not just like general kind of education where you come out, you cannot afford, you still go back to mama.
Right.
To I mean, I think those are some of the things that he was like, those that have made it to the top, why don't you come back?
Because nobody ever asked them. I'm working with a group now, Fairfield Community Development Corporation. And so they received some money from the city. The city received the America's Best Communities grant. And in that grant, $200,000 was set aside for Fairfield to start a Community Development Corporation. I didn't have a clue what they were talking about. But I thought, okay, we need this. There's no place in the community, so say, Ernest, if you want to give $100 to Fairfield, there's no place that you can give it. There's no place that you can give it that you can get return for your time. You can get, and so what this community needs is a place. It needs an organization.
Yeah, like a platform.
That can look at the needs of the community. And that's what the Fairfield CDC is going to do. Plus, what are the things that we need? Plus, we've never asked anybody. We've never asked people to give back. When I was on council, the city was going to close the only swimming pool in the city. And so I'm talking to the public works director. He calls us, well, you know, we don't have any money. And I said, where are those kids going to go if they can't swim? Which also has the Boys Club, the community center connected to it.
Like
so,
the A.D. Lewis.
A.D. Lewis. And so he said, I don't know. So I go on a mission. We cannot let the pool close. And one of the members of our church was a former employee of one of the power plants. And so he gave money. And we also encircled around and got people to give money to get to have the pool stay open. During that time, there's a group of folks, the Douglas High School, the people who went to Douglas High School, they come back every couple of years and have a reunion. And so that particular year they were coming back for a reunion, and I made a presentation at their dinner, and I said, you know, A.D. Lewis is about to lose their pool. We need to have some support from you. There's not a person in this room who did not swim at the A.D. Lewis Center. So you need to give back. And so one guy said, okay, I'm going to give, but you know, people make promises, they start to drink a little bit and they forget about it.
Yeah.
But because I didn't put anything in place to actually go back and say, remember you made this pledge.
Yeah, do a follow-up.
Right, I couldn't go back. But when he said to me, nobody's ever asked. That's true. We don't ask the people who lived here to come back, which is where I'm going to move the CDC to. Who are the people who are still alive? And many of them are very successful people. Look at the guys who graduated from Marshall who played sports, who were in the community. So why are they not giving back? We haven't asked them to.
Yeah, because we don't even have a forum, we don't even have an organization, no institution, no structure.
And so that's why we're forming the CDC. The Fairfield CDC will be that format, that structure, that will, one, gather information. What are the needs of the community? Who are the people who live here and what do they need? We know that. I'm going to do a podcast tomorrow. And the guy who's doing the podcast asked me what was the economic, emotional, social impact of COVID on the community. So I made a couple of phone calls. And as I talked to different people, I'm saying, okay, how has COVID affected us? And first of all, we are social beings. We have activities all the time. All those activities have stopped because of COVID. And people are afraid.
Yeah, especially the early Louis. That even my kid used to go there. Because now, I mean, people cannot go to work because they don't know where to keep their children if after school. So those are some of the things that I think, I mean, talking about community institution, this is something that I would like to revisit so that you can explain the structure of this kind of community organization so that other community can copy from it as a model. Because I think it's very significant that we have this kind of structure where you can say, oh, we need assistance in this, and people will be willing to donate to those kind of charity organizations. You know, yeah, when we look at the progress that we have come, then we look at these challenges, then we begin to look for solutions. And like you said earlier, we cannot go back and fix what happened in the 60s, but we can fix something now going forward. Sandra, I really appreciate your time, and I thank you so much for this wonderful time that you have taken to talk to Gaza Media. And yeah, any last word before we end this particular segment concerning this Black History Month for Black folks listening to you right now?
Keep the faith and keep up the fight.
Yeah.
I think that we cannot be stagnant, that there are issues that we need to deal with every day. And they're not one-person issues. We have to come back to become a village again and be concerned about our neighbor. I think that we have lost that, And as I'm talking to some of the senior citizens, and I'm certainly in that group, those social activities that happen in the community, we need. That's how we socialize. That's how we keep our mental fitness going, and that's how we see the progress that we made. It may not be a lot, but we weren't doing this 20 years ago, and so we've done something. And so we need to have those social activities start again, so that our mental fitness and our feeling of not being alone can diminish. Okay?
Yeah, that's true. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, it has been a pleasure talking to you, and at least I would like to revisit, because I think there are many other topics that we want to revisit, especially like somebody like you who is now retiring. You need to hand over the torch to the next generation, because sometimes I've always said, after the demonstration on the street, when we go into the office making decisions, who are those on the table?
That's right.
If one of you is not there, then that battle has not been fought.
Absolutely. You have to be sitting at the table in order for there to make change.
Exactly.
And so many people said to me, well, you're only one vote out of 20. I said, but my whole thing is to put this on the table. That many times topics that they talk about would not come from the Black perspective. And so my job is to say, have you ever thought about this? And so my job is to persuade other people to see the other issues on the other side. If all white people are sitting at the table, they make white decisions.
Exactly.
But we have to have other people sitting at the table. If they're all men at the table, they make men's decisions. The mayor, a couple years ago, the mayor received an award and took some of his council people to Charleston. And so we walk in, they're gonna have lunch, it's gonna give them an award. And there were two women, me and another lady from Huntington. So we walk in, and they have this kind of chit chatter, networking, and I'm listening, and I'm looking. And I said to the mayor later, I said, Mayor, what do you hear? And he said, what am I supposed to hear? I said, listen to the tone of the room. He said, there are men talking. Exactly. There are men talking. How many women are here? How many women are getting an award for what they've done? How many women are getting recognition for what they've done? And I said, the second thing, how many people of color do you see in this room?
Exactly.
He said, well, I said, discounting the servers, how many Black people do you see in this room? He said, 2. I said, and something needs to be done about that, Mr. Mayor. We need to have more women, we need to have more Black people, we need more people of color coming and receiving awards, getting recognition, doing things, and being recognized for that. And he agreed with that. So.
Yeah, that's the fight. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
You have come to the end of this interview. Again, my name is Ernest, for your host. Stay tuned to our next program. Bye-bye for now.